Welcome to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. Welcome back to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Reagin, and excited to be with you this fine day. And wherever you're listening to, wherever you listen to your podcast, I hope it's a great, beautiful, fun day that you've got going on. Maybe you have a little bit of fun. And speaking of fun, actually, we've got a little bonus episode coming to you later this week or the beginning of the next week with the one and only Annie F. Downs, longtime friend. We went to college together and really enjoyed my conversation with Annie. And that's coming up pretty soon. It's a little departure from leading things you didn't start. But this week we are making up for that with my friend Paul Daugherty. Paul is the lead pastor at Victory in Tulsa and took over for his dad when he was 28 years old. He lost his dad. His dad passed away, and he was the youngest in the family. And it's just really a pretty amazing story of God's faithfulness and also of a leader who is willing to just do the next right thing. And so that's the episode today. We're going to sit down with Paul. Quick couple updates for you. The handicap is sitting at about a 4.0. I have gone up and down a little bit, decided at the club that we play at is I'm going to play from the back tees just to keep working on that. So those of you that are interested, this is very exciting stuff. I've had a lot of people asking me how Leading Things You Didn't Start has been going. And, fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm not real good at following up with analytics or numbers like that. And honestly, when you release something like this, I think you just do it. And there are definitely people that understand the science behind it and all this stuff. I just kind of do it as an opportunity to serve people. But I've been really encouraged by the people who have been picking it up, reading it, and enjoying it. And so, I think it's been going pretty good. So thanks for asking. And let's see, last couple things. I'm trying to think when we talked last. Well, I don't know. There's a lot going on. About to be summertime. School's about to get out. My wife and I this year, we celebrate our 20-year anniversary, so that's pretty fantastic. We got some fun things in store for that. And, other than that, man, I am just honored to keep getting to serve this. By the way, if you're a pastor and you're listening to this, we have a couple spots left for our 1010 project, June. So it's project number 2, kicking off in June. We will be headed to Las Vegas and then drive up, and we will take UTV rides. We will be riding long distances, camping out, having an amazing time with Wilderness Collective. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to the number 10, word 10, 1010project.com and find out more. Schedule a time to talk to Josh or I, and we will get you up to speed on that. And, for those of you that know me, this is so fun. Our first project started in February when we went snowmobiling in Wyoming. We are currently, 4 months into that group, and really just having the best time getting to know those guys and those pastors and for them to get to know each other. And we're a couple months away from another pretty amazing gathering together. So anyway, I hope you guys are well. I'm really excited about this episode. Paul Daugherty is a really good friend. He and Ashley are expecting their 5th child, which is awesome, and have been in Tulsa, I believe, his whole life, but right literally across the street from the big hands of ORU, Oral Roberts University, the praying hands you can see from their front foyer. And what an amazing church. We hosted a couple of Catalyst One Days there and just got to know them well. And he and Ashley have stepped in to lead a church they didn't start with such grace, with such leadership and character, and I just felt like these are people you need to know and get to hear from. And so here's my conversation with the one and only Paul Daugherty. Well, welcome back to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. My name is Tyler Reagin, and today I have a privilege of sitting with my friend. And when I say sitting, I'm on Zoom because that's just the world we live in, isn't it, Paul?
That is.
So Paul Daugherty is with us. Paul is the pastor of Victory Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a legend in so many different ways. And so, Paul, I'm really glad to have you on the podcast.
Hey, I am honored to be on the podcast.
So, Paul, tell for those people that might not know Victory or know your story a little bit, get us up to speed a little bit. Give us a little bio, a little background.
Yeah, so Victory started with my parents, Billy Joe and Sharon Daugherty, in 1981. They graduated from seminary here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They both went to a Bible school here and felt just called to start a church. And when they started it, it exploded. Within the first 6 months, it grew to 2,000 people. It was one of the fastest growing churches in the 80s. By 1985, they were, every Sunday averaging close to 5,000 people coming to church. And that was the year I was born, 85. So I was their fourth baby. They had four kids, and I was the youngest. And the church just grew and met in a very large auditorium in our city called the Mabee Center, which is the place where Oral Roberts University plays
Come
basketball.
on now, and we're currently sitting, and they're in the Sweet 16 right now, huh?
Yeah, and that's where my parents graduated from. They really felt a connection with Oral. He was alive back then, and my dad just, basically really loved like his heart for the world, for missions, for evangelism. And so long story short, we rented their main auditorium for church every Sunday. We were a mobile church for 20 plus years. And then in 2007, our church finally built a 5,000 seat auditorium that was in my dad's heart. But people were like, why would you build a 5,000 seat auditorium in Tulsa, Oklahoma? It would make sense maybe in Houston, Texas,
Right.
and that's like 1994, because by 2007, everyone was doing satellite churches, small venues, 500 seat auditoriums, definitely not 5,000 seat auditoriums, just because, it seemed like that era was over. But my dad had that vision for it. And we built the same year that our church started in 81. My parents started a Christian school, kindergarten through 12th grade, a Bible college, a 2-year, seminary, and then a camp. Later on, we bought like 150 acres out 40 miles from Tulsa near a lake and in the wilderness. And we used that as a kids' youth camp. And then we also, like in 1999, my dad was friends with Tommy Barnett, Matthew Barnett, loved the vision of the Dream Center, felt like there was an area in our city that was really high in poverty and crime and just, a whole lot of bad stuff in that area. And so he decided to start a Tulsa Dream Center, and our church, kind of basically paid to get it up and running and employed people out there. But we wanted it to be used for any church in the city to come and serve, volunteer, regardless of what denomination they were. So it, to this day, is doing an amazing job in North Tulsa, changed the crime rate, changed the whole trajectory of kids out there, their lives. And here we are celebrating 40 years as a church this next month at Easter.
Wow.
So it's crazy. And then, all these areas are still going, they're still going strong. But my father, he passed away. He died of cancer suddenly in 2009. And when he did, I felt this calling. When I was in the hospital, I was like weeping, holding his hand by the bed in MD Anderson, Houston, Texas, cancer hospital. And I remember just feeling this tug in my heart to serve my mom, serve our church, and get ready because I was going to pastor our church someday.
Had you felt that before, Paul, or was that just that was like a fresh kind of thing for you?
It was definitely fresh. When I was a kid, I always dreamed of serving my mom and dad, helping out with, I loved playing music. So I played guitar, piano. I had a band. I wanted to lead worship. I wanted to travel the world and play music. And one day, come back and serve as like an assistant or a youth pastor or something.
Sure.
But that night, everything changed. And I felt like I was supposed to lay down those dreams of music and stuff like that and just focus on the church and serving. And I knew it, like I could feel it. I had just gotten married. The last thing my dad did publicly was my wedding. And he did it while he was in chemo treatment, which was kind of crazy. But I just, that night, everything changed. I had been serving, leading our college ministry at that time for about a year. And our college ministry had really grown from like 200 young adults to like 800 young adults. And so I knew that I had this connection with just preaching and ministry, leading people, but I never thought senior pastor was in my future, because I thought surely it'll be my older brother, my older sisters, or one of my dad's like people that he mentored that would one day take over the church. I didn't think it would be me for sure. I was kind of like the last choice in my mind. But that night I felt like God was speaking. And so I told my wife, she was like, don't tell anyone, because we know what happened to Joseph with all of his brothers. He was sold as a slave to Egypt. And she's like, I don't think that's from God, but if it is, let's let him decide. And so, yeah, I just kept it to myself. A year later, the board of trustees came to me and they said, hey, you know, when your father passed, he felt like the only person who could step in and help steady the ship was your mother. But what he didn't say was that he also felt like someday you were going to pastor the church. So my mom had stepped in as an interim pastor, which was really tough. In Oklahoma, people just did not agree with women pastors or preachers. And so our church had shrunk about 5,000 people, literally overnight. People just left the church. And we had this massive auditorium that was empty. And it was depressing. It was like, I hated coming to church. All my close friends were leaving, going to all the cool churches in town. And I was like, man, I wish I could go, but I can't. Cause I'm here.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. So it was really like, my mom did the best job she could, but she was not, she didn't study to preach. She studied other stuff. So her thing was, she was trying to keep the church going. And she came to me about a year into it after my dad had passed and said, hey, your dad never told you this, but he saw you one day becoming the pastor. And I was like, I started crying. I was like, Mom, I felt it the night he died in the hospital. I really felt like God was calling me to serve you and get ready to pastor. And she said, well, I want you to go and learn as much as you can from every leader, pastor you can, read all the books you can, and just stay by my side until it's time for you to step in. And so basically that's what I did for the next 4 years. I went to every class I could. I started focusing on my master's in theology and just started like learning from every leader I could, sat down, interviewed every pastor I knew that pastored a church of any size. But I definitely wanted to learn from the guys who had built something that was like what my dad had done. And I wanted to learn not just the ministry side, but the business side, because our church had a school, we had a camp, a dream center, and we employed 430 people. So I was like, I don't want to sink this. And that was another thing. My mom, when all these people started leaving the church, she said, I want you to be in helping me with the business side of the church. You're going to have to let go of people because we can't afford to keep all these people hired. So I was having to release people that raised me.
Right.
And it was so hard, but it was like this crash course training on how to lead an organization and how to make tough decisions. And
how old were you then, Paul?
I was 25. And so, here I am being thrown into this. And I remember sitting down with people who had worked there for 25 years, since 1982. And here I am letting them go. And it was hard. Yeah. But through all of that, it was like God was training me, preparing me. I had family members who did not agree with me becoming the pastor, who left and took a bunch of people with them. And it was hard. Like, honestly, I just thought, I don't know if I want to do this. But then I started thinking about, I knew I had watched my dad my whole life walk through the highs and lows of victory and the valleys and the mountaintops of pastoring people and people that you pour into betraying you and turning their back or, all that stuff. And so I was like, okay, this is something that I think I was born for. And that the training started when I was a kid. I just didn't realize it. Yeah. And so the day came when I was 28 years old and she said, all right, it's time. At that point, our church had gone down quite a bit. We had let go of over 100 plus people. And honestly, I was like, okay, God, all I want to do is just see this church flourish again. Like, I just want to see it grow. And I'm tired of seeing people leave. I want to see people come. And so that first week in 2014, this was 7 years ago, I just started praying and our team, I was like, we're going to do everything we can to make this place feel like it's a victory type of atmosphere. If we're called victory, let's not come in like we're defeated and deflated and depressed and discouraged. Like, I want people to come in and leave with victory in their hearts. So yeah, praise God. Since then, in 2014, our church has grown for sure. We're in the best place we've ever been financially. We just completed our next generation youth building. It was like an $11 million project we did. Our youth group is exploding every Wednesday night. There's 500 teenagers during a pandemic showing up, getting saved. We got an amazing right now atmosphere, like weekend services. We're packed to the top. It's wild. Our team is literally pinching ourselves going, we remember 7 years ago when we were thinking we were going to have to shut down the doors of our Dream Center because we couldn't afford to keep it going. We thought we were going to have to shut down our Bible college, our camp. Thought we were going to have to sell it. And now the camp is exploding. The Bible colleges, the school is growing. All these public school kids are transferring into our school. And it's awesome because we're reaching people who don't come to church. But God's shining that light on victory to be a witness. And so all I would say is this to anyone out there who's taken over something that they didn't start, whether it's going good or bad, it's on you and you have what it takes to do it. But you gotta, there's a whole lot of lessons there.
Sure.
You got to determine, I had to determine in my heart, I am not going to let this thing, like I am going to lean heavily on the Holy Spirit to keep this thing, not just maintaining, but multiplying.
So Paul, when that like 2014, they hand you the keys basically, right? And you're standing there, everybody knew you. It wasn't like you were coming in from the outside, but it was your turn to lead.
Yeah.
How did you step in? You talked about the vision of kind of, we're going to be about victory. That's the name of our church. But like, how did you start going and getting this team on board with your leadership, early on?
Yeah. So first week that I stepped in as pastor, there was this group of ushers that had become so toxic during the years that my dad had passed and my mom was leading. So when I stepped in, they all quit and they came to me and my wife and they were like, we don't, you're just a kid. You're 28 years old. You don't know what you're doing. We loved your parents, but we don't really like you. And it was hard. That first week, I was like, okay, well, hopefully that's the last group that leaves. It wasn't. There was more people who left. But something that this pastor said to me, and I remember sitting down with different pastors, and he said, Paul, I want you to write in your journal and pray that for every person who leaves, God's going to bring 20 people in their place. And I was like, what is that? Is that like, magic trick? Like, is God really going to do that? Like, and he was like, I prayed that when my dad died, that every person who left, that God was going to bring 20 people in their place, and God did it. And he's like, you just need to believe that there's more people for you than those that are against you. And so I started praying that. And I just started believing like, God, you're going to attract people to our church, to my personality, my vision, and to the vision that I see for our church. Mm-hmm. And so I just started praying it. I wrote down this confession on a napkin. One Saturday night, I drove up to our church in 2014, and it was right before I stepped in as pastor. And it was a really depressing Saturday night. Like there was no one there. We had our Saturday night service. I was thinking, why do we still have a Saturday night service? Nobody wants to hear me preach. Nobody wants to come to church. And I was having a pity party, and I literally looked up at the cross in our parking lot above our church. And I felt this voice in my spirit saying, change the narrative, change your confession, stop canceling what I want to do with your words. Proverbs says life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah.
And speak life, and you'll eat the fruit of your lips. And so I felt this tug, like change your confession. So I literally wrote down on this napkin, I'm here on purpose. And as I wrote that, like I cried because I was like, man, I don't feel like I'm here on purpose. I feel like I'm here on accident. My dad died. That wasn't purposeful. Like, why are we in such a mess? And I felt like the Lord said, no, stop saying that. Yep. Right faith. So I wrote down, I'm here on purpose because I have a purpose. My heart is open. My mind is ready to receive. And when I got to the next line, I wrote down, because God's not finished with me yet. Well, I had been saying in my mind, God is finished with the Daugherty family. God's finished with victory. We're not going to, like our best days are behind us. We're not going to see things better because the best days were, in the 80s and the 90s. And I just been saying all these negative things. And God said, no, I'm not finished with you. I'm not finished with your family. I'm not finished with your church. I'm not finished with Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm not finished with America. And I was thinking about Philippians 1:6, he who started this work will be faithful to complete it. And so I just said, all right, if you're not finished with me, then that's the game changer. That means anything's possible. And my next, line I wrote on the napkin was, our best days are right in front of us. And I have victory in my life because Jesus lives in me. So I went into the church that night. There was about 200 people on that Saturday night, and in a 5,000 seat auditorium, which just feels so depressing. We had curtains, pipe and drape, covering the empty chairs, but it can't cover 4,000 empty chairs. So anyways, it was so bad. But I shared that confession and I said, everybody say this with me. And people were so not into it. And I felt the Lord say, tell everyone in section C to say it. Well, that's the far back seats.
Yeah.
There's no one back there. So I go, everyone in section C. And the people literally on the front row
start laughing.
Start laughing. They're like, there's no one back there, Paul. And I was like, let's pretend that there is. Because my dad used to ask me when I was a kid, he would take me to empty fields and he would say, what do you see? And I would say, well, I see a field. I see anthills. I see trash. And he would say, no, I see a church for the unchurched. I see a hospital for the hurting. I see a dream center one day. I see a 5,000 seat auditorium. I see marriages restored, families reconciled. I see prodigal sons coming home. And I would scratch my eyes. I'd be like, you're crazy, Dad. I don't see it. And he would say, well, you got to see it in here before you see it out there. And he would teach me at a young age to see with eyes of faith, to see with vision, field of dreams kind of stuff. And so anyways, that night I was like, everyone in section C, say it with me. And I could see it in my mind that one day our church auditorium was going to be full. And our church, there's 200 people laughed, but here we are today and it's packed even on Saturday night, and a Wednesday night and Sunday morning and Sunday night. So it's I had to get that. So we say that every single week. We call it the victory confession.
Yeah.
And I just encourage people. So every week I'll get emails, direct messages on Instagram. I'll get text messages just saying, hey, your victory confession has changed my family because we were so negative. We were so toxic and we were always putting each other down and talking about how our best days were behind us. But now we have that confession in our house on the wall. We speak it over ourselves. We say it over our kids. So now we teach it to the children's church. Our group says it. And it's kind of like this declaration,
Did you get the sense once you kind of felt the Lord's wind behind you, was it easier for you to step in, lead the staff, make decisions? One thing I know about you, Paul, is you're a passionate leader. And so, I know patience. We both know that there's a patience required as you're doing this, right? It's a discernment dance. I got to step forward, take a couple steps back, kind of move into that. Do you feel like that night where you sat in the car, it was just that wind that you needed to be able to step in and trust that I need to move forward fast here, but not here? And how did you navigate that?
Everything was definitely, like you said, spirit led and also getting counsel. So I remember meeting with Dr. Rutland, who was the president of ORU back in the day. He came from Southeastern, and I think now he preaches for Jensen Franklin in Atlanta or wherever. But he said to me, Paul, changes need to be done slow, intentional. And he said, I would really err on the side of honor.
Yeah.
Because he said, you don't have your crowd yet. So you need to build that. He said that the thing you have going for you is that you're the son, and the people who left because maybe they missed your dad and because they weren't used to a woman, ministering from stage, they're going to be interested to come back simply because you're a son. And I was like, okay. And he said, now don't screw that up by making 1,000 changes within your first year. And so he said, move the flags 1 inch at a time off the stage, change the carpet 1 inch at a time, change the paint, one wall, don't do it all overnight.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We just gradually
That's really good insight.
We just started shifting things because things were old school and we needed to change. And he said, honestly, he was like, I would wear a suit because your dad wore a suit, your mom wore a suit. He said, I would do it for at least a year. before you start changing to a more casual approach on Sundays. And so I gradually shifted from like the suit to the suit with jeans to not a suit jacket, just a sweater. And then to now I literally can wear whatever I feel comfortable wearing in our churches. And I've been able to do that for the last probably 4 or 5 years. But the first 2 years, I really took my time to kind of gradually shift our culture. And it paid off. Like all those people came back, connected, bought in. We still have a church with my parents' age group here. It's not just my age group.
Yeah.
7 years in, we have people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. My grandma's age group, and she's 97. They still come.
She's
and
crushing
it's loud. It's, it's loud, it's fun, it's vibrant, it's my style.
Yeah.
We still have a very multi-generational and multicultural church. We have our 11 a.m. white people are the minority. And like, it's a healthy mixture of diverse in age and ethnicity at Victory. So
what was one of your biggest fears, Paul, as you stepped in? Like, what was that little kind of thing that kept telling you the wrong stories in your mind? Like, what was that fear for you?
Oh, totally. Just insecurity, not qualified. So right before my dad passed, he had given me a key to my office because I was pastoring the college ministry. And I was like, Dad, can I please have more keys? Because I was a janitor for like 2 years at Oral Roberts University, and I had a whole ring of keys. And I was like, they trusted me as a janitor more than you trust me as your son. And he was like, Paul, you only need one key. And I was like, no, I need all the keys. He was like, why? I said, because I want to have your trust and I want to have access to the building. And he was like, no, you just need that key to your office. Well, when he passed, there was several weeks where I would come up to the church, several nights to, come and write on the piano. And I was always locked out of the building. I was locked out of the auditorium. I didn't have the keys for it. And I honestly went through this process where I felt locked out, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally. I thought, my dad had the keys to fundraise, but I don't have the keys to do that. My dad had the keys to connect with these types of people. I don't have the keys for that. Yeah. My dad had the keys for confidence, and I don't have the keys for that. And I really just felt unqualified, unworthy, and locked out of my calling. Like I just, for a long time felt that way. Well, one night, and every night that I was locked out, I would have to call a security guard, a janitor. They would come and unlock it. And it was funny because people would ask me to come and do something, and I would be like, no, I can't do that. You should have someone else do that because I
can't get in.
Yeah. I literally remember one person saying, would you come and pray for my dad? He's in the hospital. And I said, man, I can't. And they said, why? And I said, I've got stuff going on. I didn't have anything going on. I was totally free. But because my prayers didn't work on my dad in the hospital, I didn't think my prayers would work on their dad.
Wow.
So I felt locked out of like everything. I felt locked out of like the authority of the scripture. I felt locked out of feeling confident about my relationship with God. I felt locked out of grace. I felt like I had screwed up too many times to feel like I was truly forgiven of things in my past. And so oftentimes I was like, yeah, you need to call TD Jakes for that. You need to call, Andy Stanley for that. He's got the keys to leadership, but I don't. And so I was really good at inviting guest speakers in, but not really believing in my own message or my own voice. And this one night I was locked out of our church, and the security guard couldn't come because he was locking up buildings across the city at the Dream Center. And he was like, I'll be there in about an hour. So I start trying to bust into our church, can't get in. And I thought, all right, I'm going to take my credit card, try to shimmy it between the crack of the door, pick the lock, can't get in still. And I thought, all right, I'm going to use this little key my dad gave me to my office. I'm going to jam it in the keyhole, and I'm just going to try to turn it and yank the door. When I put it in the keyhole, it fit perfectly, which boggled my mind. I was like, what is happening? I turn it and it unlocks the door. And I literally was like, what is happening? Did God just change my key? And I go into, this is on the outside of the building, which I had never tried to unlock the outside of the building because it's a big old building.
Yeah.
You've been here.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I'm going to see if this key works on our auditorium, which was probably the most intimidating place for me to come into every week. And I I put the key in, I turn it, and it unlocks the door. And it dawned on me, I have the master key.
Yeah.
And I've had it this whole time. And then it like hits me. I start crying, and I could just see my dad up in heaven, like, duh. Had it, Paul.
It's the only one you need, Paul.
Yeah. And I was like, why didn't you tell me, Dad? You know, and I was literally upset. I was like, why didn't you tell me that I had it? And I could just hear my dad saying, I wanted you to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
That you've always had what you need. You just didn't realize it. And so that night I sat down on the stage looking at the room, and I was thinking about the scripture in Colossians that says, Christ in you is the hope of glory. And I just wrote down on my journal, Christ in me is the master key. And I thought, okay, if I have a relationship with Jesus, then I have what I need to be who he's called me to be.
Yep.
I may not be a Billy Joe Daugherty or an Andy Stanley or a Stephen Furtick or a TD Jakes or a Judah Smith, but Christ in me is the master key for the confidence I need to lead this church, to fundraise, to keep this thing going, to lead meetings, to be the best pastor I can be. And that was the night that honestly, I felt okay with whoever leaves. I said this to myself, whoever leaves when I step in, they're not going to strip me of the power and authority to be the pastor of this church.
Yeah.
And I had to remind myself of that, because there was some big people who left when I stepped in. I remember this wealthy guy, he came and he said, all right, I will pay for your entire vision. He ran a multi-million dollar company in Tulsa, and he had the money to drop. He paid for my dad, like, to do so many stuff back in the 90s. And he was like, I'll pay for your whole vision, but I need you to do this, 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 and this.
Right.
And I heard the Lord say, are you going to trust him, or are you going to trust me? Is he like, cause he will own the church. He can buy the pulpit if you let him do this. And I told him, I was like, I can't do what you're asking me to do. I got to do what God's calling me to do. And he was like, all right, I'm gone. I'm going to go to Transformation. I'm going to Church on the Move.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he never came back. It was tough, but I had to remind myself, he's not my master key.
Yep.
He's not my master key to the vision of this house. Jesus is. And I've got to believe that Jesus in me is enough, that every time I get up and preach, God's going to bring in the provision. He's going to bring in the people. He's going to help me lead this week. He's going to help me make the right decisions on things. And sure enough, God started bringing in new multimillionaires, other people. And this one guy came in with jeans and flip-flops and a t-shirt and handed me the largest check in the history of our church, $1.5 million. And he said, just remember that God always has the provision, and it's not me. Because he said, I'm leaving. I'm going to Colorado. And he said, you don't need to be attached to me. You just need to know that God has your back.
That's crazy.
And the guy left, went to Colorado, never saw him again. But since then, there's been just multiple like moments where God has just shown up. He's paid things off. He's taken care of our school church. And then it's just amazing how the culture of victory has continued to reach the poor and the rich and the middle class and white, black, Asian, Hispanic. And, it's God's doing his thing.
So before we recorded, you were talking about, you've got a big position you just interviewed for.
Yes.
So let's say this person comes in 2 weeks, Paul, and they're going to be leading something they didn't start.
Yeah.
What's one or two things that just leadership principles you just want to look them in the eye and go, hey, here's 2 things I want you to know to be successful as you start this process with us?
I think I care more about the heart than the head. I think that if people have the heart of a leader and they truly care about people and they want to see people win, then we can teach the head knowledge stuff. And so with who we hire for this position, I would say, if I know that your heart is committed to the DNA and the culture of this house, then I trust you to really be a great leader and succeed in your area. So to me, like, how do I get a heart as a leader? I want to be in a time of prayer. I want to be in time of seeking to understand, what is this organization that I'm taking on? What is their DNA? What matters to the board? What matters to the leader of this house? So that I can make sure I'm in alignment with their heart. Because if you're in alignment with the heart of what God, like whether you're leading a bank or a church or a new company or business, I just think the heart's a big deal,
Yeah.
And then I would say for me, that night I realized I had the master key. I think just the realization that you have what it takes.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you walk around with pride and boast and say, I got the master key. But that means that you don't need to constantly second guess yourself. You need to walk in with a sense of ownership that I was made for this.
Yep.
And I'm going to give it my best shot. And I'm going to be who I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to lead people with grace, with truth. But I am not going to constantly apologize for who God made me to be. So if you're an Enneagram 7, own it. If you're an Enneagram 1, own it. You were made for, if your strengths are, if you're more of an, like a quiet person, own that. Like I always tell our leaders, you don't have to be that person to be a great leader over your area. We just hired a new youth pastor this last year, and he's way different than our previous youth pastor, but the youth group's growing.
Yeah.
And the previous youth pastor had done an amazing job, had built an amazing youth group. And people were wondering, is this next guy going to be able to carry it?
Yeah.
Because he's a different leader. He's not the achiever. He's not the number 3 Enneagram guy. He's not like that personality, but God is using his personality and his skills to grow it. So I think God can use anyone.
Yeah.
Who you are called to be. Focus on the heart. That doesn't mean you throw out the head, but
sure.
Keep your heart in alignment with what God's, vision is for that role.
That's great, Paul. All right. Couple lightning round, quick questions. You ready for this? All right.
Yeah.
Best marriage advice you and Ashley have ever been given?
Oh, man. So I would say a couple of years ago, we sat down with this couple that had been married 70 years in our church. They were in their 90s. And I said, how have you guys stayed happily married? And they said, well, that's the thing. You get to decide personally if you're happy, not your spouse. And they said, we have chosen to say, I'm sorry and I forgive you every single time there's a fight or misunderstanding, a hurt, wound. So they said, if you don't get bitter, you'll make it. If you don't get bitter at your spouse, you just got to keep on forgiving. Your spouse is going to let you down, and your spouse cannot make you happy. You have to choose. So that helped me to just remind myself, Ashley is she's not my source for happiness, and she's going to let me down. I'm going to let her down. But if I'm committed to surrender and humility, then our marriage is going to make it.
Yeah. Favorite movie of all time?
That's a tough one. Man, I would say some of my favorite movies are Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
The Last Castle with Robert Redford. Man, I loved Inception. It's tough.
Did you see Tenet, the newest version of Inception, basically?
Yeah, I didn't like Tenet.
I didn't like it as much as Inception, that's for sure.
This is weird. I like Simon Birch, the movie. It was like, I love the soundtrack. I love the vibes of it.
When I was in high school, God saved my youth pastor, his favorite movie was Ishtar, which is like the worst movie in the history, whatever. It's just one of those things.
Oh, man.
All right. Best just overall leadership idea that's helped you.
I would say, man, that's tough. I always go back to this word that a leader gave me back in the day where he said, Paul, be a there you are person, not a here I am. Don't make the focus on you. Keep the focus on others. Even in your preaching and your leading, just walk into the room and say, there you are. So good to see you. Love you. Don't wait for people to come to you. You go to them.
Yeah.
And so I try to keep that in mind every time I'm walking through the hallway after a sermon, not being focused on, did I preach a good sermon? Did people like it? I try to remind myself, they're not here for me. I'm here for them. And I need to make sure that after that sermon, I'm not so self-conscious, but I can walk out, give people hugs, shake hands, connect with people, tell them thanks for coming.
That's good.
So
I like that. All right. This one's going to be hard. Last one is going to be hard for you because you love music. if you could only listen to one band, their entire catalog for the rest of 2021, this is all you got, those one band, who would that be?
Oh, man. Honestly, I would probably say Ben Rector.
That's a good choice. That's not where I was expecting. That's really good, though.
Yeah, I know it's not a band, it's an artist, but like I just love good acoustic piano, singer-songwriter music.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, hey, just a few days ago, I interviewed a mutual friend of ours, Chris Durso, who has done a similar thing and stepped in to lead a church that his mom and dad started. And I think the thing that strikes me, Paul, with both of you guys is just your humility and your honor for your parents, the way that you are leading in a way that brings life to people and brings life and glory to God. And so as a friend of yours, like, I just want to, stand up and applaud you and just say, way to go, man. You've done a great job of leading. And I know it hasn't been always easy, but the way you followed the Lord has been inspiring to the rest of us. So thanks for doing it well. And thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Tyler, man. Thanks for having me. And I love you, bro. I remember meeting you when you guys came here for Catalyst one day. And I just appreciate your spirit, man, your heart. Like you are a heart leader, and it's refreshing to be around people like you who don't just lead from the head, but that have that heart. And so thanks for having me on your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And again, I told you would not be disappointed in that conversation. If you want to follow Paul, you can follow him at Paul Daugherty. It's Daugherty on social media, and Victory Tulsa is their church. Just a great dude. I love his heart. I love his humility. I love the way he sees God and discerns what God is speaking to him and saying to him by just even walking day in and day out with the Lord and with the Holy Spirit. And so it's pretty amazing to see how that works. But great dude, great leader. I'm super thankful for him. Again, you can follow him at Paul Daugherty. And keep up. If you enjoy this podcast, we're probably going to do a few more weeks. I'm starting to wrap up the interviews with people who are leading things you didn't start and get back to regularly scheduled programming. I am curious on this. If you have thoughts as listeners, if you want me to continue with series or seasons where we hit one specific subject, like I keep wanting to do a series on creativity and interact and interview people who are creatives and just learn some best practices from them, or maybe music, or whatever the thing may be. So if you've got some ideas, just send me a text if you know me, send me a DM if you follow me on Instagram, and let me know what some of your thoughts are on what we could talk about or who you'd want me to interview. I'm excited about working on season 3 and building that out after we wrap up Leading Things You Didn't Start. So we're going to keep the train rolling. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you enjoy this, please subscribe and share with your friends. And then please rate us wherever you're listening to your podcast. That really helps us grow in our listenership. And really thankful that you are fighting to be a life-giving leader. So until next time, lead well and give life.